Liz, Anton from Climatalist.
Hi, Anton. Great to be with you today.
Thank you very much. So we were just talking about Climate Week in New York, and here we are at Climate Action Week in Sydney. Tell me, what do you think?
Well, I was just remembering that I was actually at Climate Week in New York about 10 years ago with a team of people speaking, and I always thought, what an idea, we should do this in Australia. And then I heard this was happening. I couldn't believe it. It's such an amazing, incredible feat to pull something like this together in the time everybody has done. But I really think that when you do this and you bring a collective group of people together for a week and everybody shares their stories, their solutions, their hopes, we hear the voices of young people, which we realise we're the caretakers for tomorrow. I think that just creates a mass communication and a wave that rolls out. And I think when we do that, we start connecting communities. So I am so excited to see from this week how we actually shift the needle. Because I say this is like a sliding door moment in humanity, in life, and in what we can do here in Sydney, Australia. So great job.
Fantastic. So thinking about moving the needle, so we're quite focused on business. I was just chatting to Chris earlier. Capitalism has a big role to play in this. So in terms of business action, as a result of Action Week, what do you think would be the number one thing the business could do from taking their lead from this event?
Well, I think it's an interesting question for me because as a filmmaker, my whole goal is to educate and make people more aware. But I think taking a leaf out of what is happening in Singapore at the moment, they have decided to give awards to people now that are making really difficult, tough decisions. Make those awards now, not in 20 years' time, so that we can encourage more people in business, more people in government and in community to have courage to be innovative and to make the decisions that we have to make right here and right now. Because the climate is a very interesting system. It moves in 30-year lags. So everything that we're doing now is going to affect those living between 2045 and 2050. So we actually have to make a change and we have to move. And so my encouragement to business is to be courageous, to explain why we need to make decisions and to get people behind us to make those decisions. And for business leaders with government and policy to actually be courageous to make the changes. We might not think they're 100% popular, but you have to look in 20 years' time, where will we be? So I hope this week business will realise the importance of shift, the importance of change, and we will start to find the courage that we all have to be part of that change.
Courage to advocate.
Yes, and courage to also make changes that you might not think, is that going to get me a popular vote? Is that going to get me back into government? Is that going to get me back into being the Prime Minister? We have to support these people because they have to make the decisions. They're not just for us, but they're for future and for future generations and for our country. So I wish for our country to be prosperous and for youth to have a future that they will look back and say, those people made decisions about our future in 2024, and that has been a game changer.
Incredible. So Liz, you're a storyteller,
Yes.
all about stories, and you talked about stories in the context of people sharing things over the course of the event. How do stories help to shift the landscape in this area?
I found that in storytelling, and I'm sure other people find this as well, when you hear about something, you see something, you learn something, you think, wow, I actually didn't know that, or that gives me a different perspective on something. So I hope that through storytelling, particularly around the climate, and the climate is a system, and I often say to people, Anton, I ask you, if you lifted the bonnet of your car, and I pulled out a few hoses, maybe drained some of the oil, put the lid back on, and I said, here are the keys. Would you think your car is safe anymore to drive?
No, absolutely not.
Exactly. And so, over the years I've learned so much. The climate is a system, and that system is made up of so many different moving parts. The Arctic, the oceans, the current systems, the rainforests, winds, Sahara. It's a very clever system. I mean, the Earth is super clever, and it's given us this very stable climate system for the last 10,000 years. And so we've been able to flourish as humanity. But we've actually started to pull some of those hoses out of the climate system, drain some of that oil out of it, is actually not working in a very stable situation anymore. And so we have to understand through storytelling and through taking people, I call it the armchair travel, but you may not get to live in the Amazon for a month. I had such a privilege, or dog sled across the Arctic, or go across Alaska and see where the permafrost is melting, or go to the Southern Ocean.
So let's talk about that dog sled story.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
What happened there?
Yeah, sliding moments in my life. We were trekking across the Arctic on dog sled, and the Arctic is frozen sea ice. So you have to remember, you're actually not on land, you're on frozen sea ice. And we were with Inuit hunters, and we were filming. And we could see after about 3 days there was a lee. So a lee is where there's a bit of a break in the ocean system, and you have to jump across the water. And I said, how do we do this? And they said, we just point the dogs, they jump, the sledge goes with it. And I'm like, okay. And we did this, and I was the first sled across. Being the director, they said, you go first, you can tell us where to put everything. I'm like, okay. So we went across it, but when we got on the other side, it was literally moving like quicksand. And I had that sort of sliding door moment in my life where I thought, we are so far from anywhere. If this goes, we'll all die. The sled, myself, my film crew. And we had to work as a team very quickly to turn the dogs around. We had to get them, and they were very, very antsy, the dogs at this stage, totally understandable. We had to get back across that lee. And we would have done that in less than about 40 seconds. That's how fast we moved as a team. We got everything and we got back across. And for me, that was a sliding door moment in my life. I've had a few, but that was one memorable one. And I think that's just an analogy of where we all are at right now.
Yeah. The ice is literally shifting under our feet. The planet's moving under our feet.
Yeah.
We just need to wake up to it.
Yes, please.
Yes.
And fast.
Fast.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much.